All right, guys, we are going to be going over setting up an agency pipeline. This is going to be a little bit longer of a video, but you're going to want to pay attention because we want to set up an agency pipeline so that when everybody uses their own individual pipelines, it sends the info to the agency pipeline, it sends the correct trips, it has all the correct automation set up for it. So we're going to go over how that works. So when you get Agency Elephant, it comes built for you with only a few different pipelines, right? It's only going to have your sales and service pipeline, okay? Sales and service pipeline is going to have these statuses in it. What we want to have happen is that every team member has their own lead, has their own prospect, and has their own proposal status. These will be their own, but we want the proposal status to go to the agency pipeline so that we can see what's going on across the board. And the sales status will be from the agency. So the onboarding's got to be from the agency. No sale, etc. These should all be agency related as well and not individuals. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is add pipelines for each of our staff members. Okay. So we're going to title this Team 1 Sales Pipeline. I'm just going to copy this so I don't have to retype it. I'm going to hit submit. Next thing I'm going to do is add a Team 2 sales pipeline. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say Team 2 sales pipeline. I'm going to copy this and paste it down here. And then I'm going to rename this pipeline section here. I'm going to rename it to Agency Sales Pipeline. Okay, Agency Sales Pipeline. Now, I have my Team 1 and Team 2 sales pipeline, but maybe I need my own sales pipeline, correct? So I have my own sales pipeline, so I'm going to call this Matt Sales Pipeline. And I'm going to copy this, paste it down here. Right, so now I've got my sales pipeline, I've got my Team Member 1, my Team Member 2 sales pipeline, and I have my agency pipeline, okay? Now what I want to do is I want to clean up my agency sales pipeline, which is here. This is my sales pipeline here. So I want to clean this up and make sure that you actually put agency down in the second one too, so it renames it in your system, right? So this is my agency sales pipeline. In my agency sales pipeline, I don't necessarily want to see leads and prospects for everybody because it'll get really messy. So I want to take this lead that is already created in my system and I'm just going to rename it to Matt's lead, right? And I'm going to rename this one to Matt's prospect and deal with it from a top down, right, from mine, and then I'm going to work on the others, and then I'm going to name this Matt's proposal, okay? And then under the pipeline assign, I'm going to say, hey, Matt's lead should only show up in Matt's sales pipeline. Matt's prospect should only show up, and I'm just going to hit in the backspace, should only show up in Matt's sales pipeline. Matt's proposal should show in the agency pipeline and it should show in Matt's sales pipeline. The sale should show in the agency pipeline and it should show in Matt's sales pipeline. Okay, see everything that's being sold. No sale should show up in all pipelines as well. So let's say Matt's pipeline and sales pipeline. Requoting opportunity, this should show up in mine as well as the agency sales pipeline. Win back as well, same thing, Matt's sales pipeline and agency. So as you can see, I'm saying, hey, these are only going to show in my sales pipeline. This is going to show in all, and all, and all, and all. And I'm going to go through and do the same thing here, right? So for example, Matt's proposal, this is only going to show up in Matt's and the agency. The sale has to actually show up in everybody. So I'm going to come in here and say Team 1. I'm going to come in here and say Team 2. No sale should show up in Team 1 and Team 2 as well. Requoting should show up in Team 1 and Team 2. And win back should show up in Team 1 and Team 2. These should show up in everybody's pipelines. Everyone's going to have their own individual prospect, lead, and proposal pipeline as well, right? So if I go into Matt's sales pipeline now, I'm going to see all these statuses, right? When I go back into the agency sales pipeline, I'm only going to see Matt's proposal, sale, no sale, requoting, and win back. Now what I've got to do is go into Team Member 1's sales pipeline. They only have these ones, right? So I got to come in here and physically add a Team 1 proposal, assign it to the Team 1 sales pipeline, hit submit. Next, I'm going to add the prospects just to keep it in order, proposal, prospect, lead, right? So now I'm going to have Team 1 prospect, and I'm going to add this to Team 1 sales pipeline. Next, I'm going to add the Team 1 lead, and you're going to do this for Team 2 as well, okay? Team 1 leads. Let's assign it to Team 1 sales pipeline, hit submit, okay? Now that I've done all this, assuming all of my staff member have all logged in, we can set up their own automations, okay? So we're going to come over into the drip section, and what we need to do is create agency, sales, drips, agency no sale drips, agency reprospecting drips, and all those things, right? So if I'm looking at my pipeline settings over here, and let me just jump into that on a separate tab so you can see. What I like to do is have two windows open so I can see some of the things that are important, because your agency pipeline comes with all the automations built in, right? These are all my automations for my prospects, okay? These are all, and let me go back over to this one because I kind of messed it up. These are all my automations for prospects, okay? These are all my automations for leads. These are all my automations for etc. This shouldn't be here, so I'm going to get rid of that. These are all my automations for proposals, okay? For sales, for no sales, okay? These are all my automations that are set up. These are automations for the agency. So we're going to have to create new groups and duplicate out drips. It really depends on how you want to do this in your agency. So you're going to want to make a checklist here. One, you're going to want to start with the prospects and say, hey, do I want to requote the prospect from the person who is working it? Or do I want to requote the prospect from the agency? I personally, if this was Jim's prospect, I want it like Team 1's prospect. I want to have Team 1 be the one that is working those. So you're going to have to pick their specific groups. And then you're just simply going to come in here and say, hey, this is, and your account will say Matt's quote follow-up. Matt's quote's not sold, right? So you're going to have these specific statuses, have the automation set up. And for onboarding, I like to duplicate out one of the onboarding campaigns and inactive the rest of them. So what that means is I need to create an agency onboarding campaign, okay? So what you're going to come in is hit the plus button, create a new drip. You're going to hit the duplicate option, and you're going to pick Matt's onboarding. Yours will say your manager name onboarding. And what you're physically going to do is come in here and say, hey, this is going to be titled agency onboarding. It's going to be tied to the agency onboarding group. You're going to hit add group. Once that's added, you're going to come in here and you're going to pick it. Then you're going to pick the phone number, right? So if we have an agency main line, I want to pick the agency main line. Check our constraints and throttles and make sure they're acceptable. I don't like anything going out before 9 or after 5 p.m. at night. And I'm going to hit submit. Now I just created my agency onboarding drip, okay? Agency onboarding. I now need to tie that into my pipelines, which is why I like to have separate tabs open so you don't have to jump around a ton. And I'm going to say, okay, under the sales column, I need to assign the agency onboarding, okay? This is going to assign the agency onboarding for everybody that drops it into this status. Every single one of these team members that drops it in, it's going to trigger the agency onboarding. You're going to do the same thing for all of your other accounts. Your Team 1 is going to have its own drips. Once that team member logs into their account through their credentials, it is going to physically clone all of their own drips, right? So Team 1, I can see he hasn't logged into his account yet. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to open up a private browser, like an incognito screen, and I'm going to log in as this team member and show you really quick. So if they haven't logged in, the drips are not going to duplicate, okay? So I got to come in here and I'm going to have to redo this password. But once this is done, it looks like Team 2 might have been completed because they have a phone number. Let's take a look at their drips and see. I'm not sure if we've logged in as that user before yet, so let's take a look. Team 2. Okay, so Team 2 hasn't logged in either. When you use this filter, it will show you all of their drips. You're going to inactive certain drips, agency-related drips. And when I mean inactive, it's pretty straightforward. You're physically going to hit this green button and change it to inactive. And you're going to inactive all of their onboarding drips. because now we created an agency onboarding drip. So let's search for their onboarding drip. Let's inactive it. And you're going to do that across the board when you're looking at your pipelines, and you're just going to tackle it one pipeline at a time. I like to start with creating the pipelines themselves first, and then I like to start with then I like to go to the automation settings and do one drip at a time, one status at a time, and work our way across the board. These should be agency related, and they shouldn't have your first name on it. It should be agency win back, so you'll duplicate that drip just like I did on the other one, picking the correct phone numbers, and you'll just change all of these to the agency win back, agency requoting, agency no sale, etc., right? So instead of prospect, you want to keep a consistent prospects group as well, okay? So your account is going to show under all of these. This is, right, if I'm looking at sales or onboarding, it's going to say Matt's customers BFY. I want to just use customers, okay? So your account will come with just a blanket customers group, which is fine, but that is how you create consistent pipelines across your account. You need to make sure that every one of these has an agency customer or just a blank customer, instead of showing like Matt's customers BFY, Matt's prospects BFY. There are going to be some changes you've got to make to this to make it work correctly, but it's just going to be a matter of creating consistent groups across your account, right? So I want to tie everything to let's say agency customers or agency prospects or just prospects and customers. You can always come in here and say, hey, do I have just a prospects bucket in here already? And you can search if you have a blank prospects or a blank customers, and you should. If you don't, just add a new group. That's how you create these pipelines so that all of your staff have their own. So each of these pipelines, when you're looking at it when you're done, this should show under here the same settings as the other one. It should show team 1 prospects not quoted, it should show agency prospects as well, and using the same expiry that are on the other drips. And if you're like, Matt, I don't know the settings of the drips, well, go to the one that was created for you and it will show you the settings that we have set up for all of these. And you're just going to have to make sure that instead of it saying prospects not quoted BFY, or instead of saying Matt's prospect not quoted BFY, it either says agency prospect not quoted, or you can tie it to Matt's specific prospect not quoted campaign, so it comes from the person that was working the prospect. And then this one should just be prospects or customers or agency prospect. It shouldn't be Matt's prospects, okay? Or you can segment it out and isolate it and say, hey, this is Matt's prospect, but it is also an agency prospect, right? Or just prospect, okay? So make sure that you are editing these settings correctly. Hope this video helps. You are going to have to go through each one of these and make sure your settings are set up for each of the pipelines so that each person has their own drips firing off for their specific statuses, but also has the agency drips. And you control those with the groups. You will know. This is Matt's quotes not closed. This is agency quotes not closed, depending upon how you want to set it up. Okay? Hope that helps. If you got questions, reach out to us at sales@agencyelephant.com or post on our Facebook group.